Safaris, we know why. To ensure a safe and pleasant trip, you should be in good health and free from high blood pressure, heart,
Alright, everybody does need a welcome, so welcome aboard, guys. Please slide all the way across for me. If your entire party doesn't fit, though, we will get you onto the next truck. But we're getting that all clear, so let's start to make our way on into the reserve to see what's happening. Alright, we're going to start off pretty quick to our right-hand side. Going to be an okapi on the hillside there. Now, okapis are actually relatives of the giraffe. They have practically the same skull structures, and they also have prehensile tongues just like those giraffes do. It's just a fancy word for flexible, meaning that tongue's going to help them grab onto their food, and they'll have no trouble whatsoever ripping leaves right off branches. As we come on up here, we're also going to take a look to our left-hand side. That's going to be a bongo hanging out there. Bongos there, known as the ghosts of the forest because they're so rarely seen, do have those horns set in that backwards direction. It's just going to help them get through all this thick brush unscathed. Let's keep pushing on through here just a bit. Alright, black rhino deep out to our left-hand side, but I am going to pull us on up here because there's going to be one much closer to us here on the left. Now, black rhinos looking up around 3,000 pounds, and they can hit top speeds of around 35 miles an hour when charging, so that is pretty intense given their size. Alright, different kind of antelope coming on up for us here. Going to be on our right-hand side in just a moment. These are greater kudu. They're one of the taller antelope species out here on the reserve, standing about 55 inches tall at the shoulder. Those ones there are females, though we can tell that because male kudu, they'd have horns, and you certainly wouldn't miss those horns. They can get about 6 feet in length. Now, we are going to be exiting on out of the little Ituri forest now, though. We'll start entering on into the Safi River. And the Safi River is home to lots of aquatic-based animals, so we'll head on out and see what we can find today. Alright, already starting to see some pink-backed pelicans across the way there. They're going to be the larger whitish-colored birds. Now, we'll come on down in just a moment, though. Seems like we're slowing on down just a little bit out here. That's okay. Now, also as we come on down, quick look on your right. Get you a look at a couple of hippos, but I don't want you to worry because we are going to hopefully find some more of them as we come on down. Now, these pink-backed pelicans do get that name from the pink coloration that shows up on their skin, mostly during their mating season. And then here we go, whole group of those hippos on our left-hand side as well. Now, a group of hippos like that is actually called a bloat, and at nighttime is when that bloat will typically come on out of that water. They'll walk for miles just to find their next food source. Now, when traveling on through that water, though, hippos, they actually don't swim. They choose to walk along the bottom surface of whatever water they're in, kind of propelling themselves forward. So when they are down there, they're down there pretty deep and for a fair bit of time as well, because they can't hold their breath for about 8 minutes straight. So I'm pretty happy with the view that we got this morning. Now, it does seem like the Safi River is starting to dry on out a bit over here. Not seeing too much other animal activity, so I wouldn't be surprised if we are heading on out towards the savannah here shortly. Now, the savanna is home to some of Africa's most popular species, like giraffes, elephants, cheetahs, lions. So hopefully we'll get lucky enough to find some of those favorites on out there. Now, before we do head on down, we're just going to take a quick peek at this weird-looking tree on our right. This is a baobab tree. They'll store gallons and gallons of water within those big trunks, but in order to conserve that water, they will actually remain leafless for around 9 months out of the year. Animals will then poke holes on into the side, out comes the water, and suddenly they are a really good resource for those animals, especially during those months of drought. Let's keep moving on through here. Already starting to see some activity out there, so that's great news for us. Alright, so as we come on down here, lots of activity already happening. Anything out in the distance, certainly don't struggle to see, because we are going to make our way on around. We'll get much, much closer to everything you might see on out there. So not to worry, for right now we'll pull on up. You can of course start to see some giraffe activity on out there. Seeing one out to our right, one out deep ahead of us. So as we come on through, hoping to find quite a few giraffes. But we're going to start on off with these lighter tan antelopes that are on our right hand side. One closest to us here, and then the second one's actually across the way. We'll get closer to her eventually. But those are Patterson's eland. Now the eland is actually the largest of all the antelopes, with the males, like the guy closer to us here, getting up around 6 feet tall at the shoulder and weighing in at about 2,000 pounds. Now that's already pretty impressively large. But from a standing position, they can actually jump around 7 feet straight up into the air. It's actually insane, but definitely gives them a lot of height when they jump on up. Let's come on up here. Out to our left-hand side, laying on down, you're going to see some African painted dogs. They do blend in very well, but that is kind of the point. They are known as the painted dogs because of those spectacular coats they've got. Each one of those coats is actually individual to each of them, just like our fingerprints are individual to each of us. Now, they do have one of the highest success rates in hunting at about 90%. I want you to have those cameras out and ready. We are lucky enough to have a couple of baby zebras out here on the reserve, and they are super cute. They're both going to be on our left-hand side in just a moment. Also going to see quite a few giraffes on over here, but of course, not every day you get to see a couple of baby zebras, so I want you to take a look at them on our left. These are specifically Hartman's mountain zebras. They're going to have a little bit of a smaller hoof than most other zebras do. That's because they are native to those mountainous regions within Africa. That smaller hoof is going to allow them to traverse those rocky terrains much, much easier. Now these brown antelopes here, sable antelopes, are actually the emblem of the Harambe Wildlife Reserve. That's because of their strength in fight or flight situations. Those guys most typically choose to fight. But very, very good look at those zebras, of course. Very happy you guys got to see them out here this morning.
No,
now, coming up close to us here on the right, this is going to be the female Patterson's eland. So not going to be quite as large, still can jump on up. The easiest way to tell them apart is just sheer size difference, but also coat coloration. Females are going to always stay this lighter tannish color. Males, when they're born, they're still that color as well, but the older and more dominant they get, the more their coat is going to darken on up and almost turn a grayish color. So you can see that he's a younger eland because he is still kind of that tannish coloration, but has a little bit of a different shade than her. Alright, giraffe on our right, also some wildebeest on our right-hand side. Now, a whole group of giraffes is actually called a tower. Pretty fitting to do tower over absolutely everything at about 18 to 20 feet tall in their adulthood. And those wildebeest there, their name literally does translate to the words wild beast. They're also known as the GNU, G-N-U, after the noise that they make. Let's come on around. Looks like we'll be able to find even more wildebeest and giraffes on up ahead. Now, giraffes, they will actually eat for about 20 hours out of their day. Now, that certainly doesn't leave too much time for sleeping, so they will only sleep for about 30 minutes each and every day, and that's usually in about 5-minute power nap periods. And they do have those prehensile tongues, so going to help them grab onto that food, but the coloration of that tongue is a deep purple shade. That's because that tongue is out of their mouth so much, that's helping to not get sunburned. starting to see some elephant activity straight up ahead of us. I'm going to be on our right-hand side in just a second. Now, I will tell you, we are going to get much closer to them, so I'm not going to talk about them over here. I'm actually going to talk about the mandrills I see to our left-hand side. They're actually all moving through the bushes over here, playing around. Now, they are the largest monkeys in the world, with the males getting up around 100 pounds. You know, for those blue and red markings on their faces, that will actually get brighter as they get more excited. It's almost similarly to the way that we blush. So pretty cool views on either side of us, of course. Let's come on up here, get even closer though. Now, elephants, they are a very social species, just matriarchal societies. So females are going to stick together their entire lives along with their young. Males, once they reach around their teenage years, will tend to break on off from the rest of the herd, and they'll go live either by themselves, like that guy there, or within loose all-male groups, so bachelor herds. Now, while they are all doing their own thing, distance-wise, all those different groups are usually not too far apart from each other. So I am hoping that as we continue on through, we might be able to find even more elephants. We'll have to see. Alright, my friends, now as we come on through here, if you check out this red clay on either side of us, you're going to see some footprints and some tusk markings. Now, elephants, they will actually eat this clay. It helps them get some minerals that they wouldn't otherwise get in their diets. But they are very migratory animals. They really do not like to stick in one place for too long. But luckily enough for us, seems like our friends haven't moved too far just yet. You can see a couple of our friends just up and over the bushes here, and a couple more of them through the tree line just out to our left. So as we do continue through the reserve, we should continue to get some pretty cool views. Now, the trunks that these elephants have are quite impressive. They're actually made up of tens of thousands of muscles, so a very intricate system. That means that they're going to be strong enough to bulldoze down something as large as one of these big old trees, but also be able to pick up something as small as a penny. To put that into perspective for you, we have about 600 muscles in our entire bodies, and they have about 40,000 muscles just in their trunks alone. So kind of crazy. We'll head on down towards the watering hole, though. That's a very important resource for all animals out here in Africa. Of course, just allowing them to cool on down, grab a drink. Sometimes it's used as a social gathering spot as well. So we'll see if anybody's down here at the moment. Alright, looks like some flamingos up ahead of us here, so we'll certainly swing on around. Go take a look at them in just a moment. And actually another elephant moving on through to our left-hand side, just up and over the bushes. You can see you guys are seated a little bit higher than I am, so hopefully you can see even better than me. Now these are specifically greater flamingos, so they are both the largest and the lightest pink of all flamingo species, but they will actually hatch gray. Now over their lifetimes they're going to eat lots and lots of brine shrimp, and that's high in something called beta-carotene. That's what's going to end up turning them that pink coloration that we all know and love. We'll take a couple of years in order to do that, though, so certainly not something that's going to happen overnight for them, but much more of a gradual process instead. To our left-hand side, gonna start to see some white rhino activity. Gonna be a really good view at them. We'll get a little bit closer, but of course not a bad view from here. Now, white rhinos, they can get up to around 5,000 pounds. They do get their name from the Afrikaans word vite. It actually means wide in reference to their mouths. They do have very square jaws, but that is perfect for grazing. Allows them to get those mouths completely flush to the ground, pick up all that hay and whatnot, absolutely no problem. Now, white rhinos, they are fairly social as far as the rhino species goes, usually hanging out in familial units like this one here. And if they're not all super close together, they're at least in the same general vicinity as each other. But very much so different than those black rhinos we saw earlier, which are much more solitary animals. Now, we're going to keep looking left, because you're going to end up seeing some cheetah activity on this hillside here. Now, cheetahs, they will go 0 to 60 in about 3 seconds, but can only hold that speed for a few hundred yards. Now, they do have those big, heavy tails. They act sort of like a boat runner would, so it's going to help them to change direction, keep their balance, all while running at those high rates of speed. Now, it looks like we're going to find even more of them. They're actually laying on down in this far corner on the left-hand side. A couple of them on up there.
More obvious ones.
They're laying on down on that top ridge line amongst all that taller grass. Alright, surprise animal on our right hand side, waterbuck in the tree line there, very easily missed. Waterbuck, they will secrete a smelly, oily substance off their coats, helps them to find each other as well as waterproof themselves a bit. Let's keep pulling on up here though, because we're making our way up towards some copy rocks. And they're typically used by predators. They can go all the way to the top, just allows them to survey the savanna a little bit easier. Lions just off to our left-hand side. Now, lions, they do like to rest and conserve their energy for about 16 to 20 hours out of their day, so that is definitely what our friends there are doing. And then at nighttime, they'll have tons and tons of energy. It's going to be the females that go on out to do all of the hunting for the entire pride. The males will stay on back. They'll protect their territory and their cubs. So you can see her laying on down just behind them there. We'll see her face in just a moment. But nocturnal animals. So during the daytime, they will wake on up occasionally just to kind of check out their surroundings. Make sure nothing's happening around them that they don't want to be. But otherwise, as you can see, it's snoozing time. So we'll take a look at her face real quick here.
I didn't realize just how in this savanna the pond camouflage.
Alright, looks like even more of those white rhinos going to be close to us here.
Animal color.
So we'll swing on around a bit. Just make sure you keep your arms inside the vehicle.
So you're about to get a rhino on this side.
Now, white rhinos, they can only see about 10 feet in front of themselves. What they lack in eyesight, they definitely do make up for it some super sharp hearing. So that's why we do our best to not scare or startle anybody, of course. So we'll just kind of slow roll on by them. Now, also, if you keep looking right, on the ground, you're actually going to see a whole pile of ostrich eggs on back there. Ostriches, they are colonial nesters in that they're all going to lay their eggs in the exact same spot, and then they just kind of take turns coming over to check them on out. Alright, we're making our way on up towards the Warden's Post, which does mean that we are nearing the edge of the reserve, but before we head on out, we're going to take a look at some Nigerian dwarf goats. These are domesticated animals. They're domesticated primarily as dairy goats, and they're good both nutritionally and economically for the community. But they are just one good example of how humans and animals can live together, help each other out, just as long as it's done right, of course. Now we are going to be heading on out of here, my friends. Unfortunately, our time together is starting to come to a close, but I think it's important to remember all the animals that we saw out there. Now, regardless of where you're from, we can all have an impact on the conservation of these animals. It's the simple things like reducing, reusing, and recycling that'll end up making all of the difference in the long run. Now, if you guys do want to go see some more African animals out there today, certainly do suggest to go check out Gorilla Paul's Exploration Trail. It's a self-guided walking trail. You can go take as little or as long as you would like. See some cool animals like gorillas, of course, zebras, okapis, naked mole rats, bear cats, just to name a few. There's also an underwater hippo viewing area over there and an aviary, so certainly some cool animals to go be seen. Alright, now we are heading on up towards our unload area, so just make sure to check in one last time around your rows for me. You certainly would not want to leave anything behind. And we will do our best to get you guys up out of here and on to your next adventure in no time, of course. Looks like this first dock's a little bit busy here, so we'll swing on around towards the second one. Alright, my friends, now out here in Harambe, we don't like to say goodbye. That's far too sad and final. Instead, we say a phrase that is Kwa Harini, and that does mean to go well, my friends. So hope you go well, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day here at Disney's Animal Kingdom.